Hi, I'm Paul, and this is a video tutorial for how to use the camera in PowerApps. So I've only been using PowerApps for a couple of weeks now, trying to put a couple of applications together. And one of the things that I had real difficulty with was working with the camera control. So I thought I'd put this little video tutorial together because most other things I was able to find good information on the web and good information on the forums. For working with the camera, not so much. So here's my quick video tutorial of how to use the camera. So a quick word about the scenario first of all. So the scenario is users can create messages within this app, and what I want them to be able to do is, after having created a message, to then be able to attach one or more photos from the camera to that message. So that's the scenario we're going to work through right now. In terms of the data sources, what we've got is two tables that are of interest for this demonstration. A message table, which has the column message date and message text, and also an identity column, message ID, which is just an incrementing number that the system fills in. And then for the message image, we've also got an ID, an incrementing number for the system to fill in, the image itself from the camera, and then the message ID. So that's the foreign key back to the message table, so we know that a particular image is associated with a particular message. So in my Power App here, this view form is displaying the information from the message table. It's not bothering to show the message ID because that's not something that the user would want to see. That's an internal value, but it is a value that will be useful to us later. So I have put that on a data card. I've just hidden or set the visible to false for that data card so the user doesn't have to see it. So later on we will add a button onto this message details screen which will take us to the camera screen, which will allow us to take the photos. I'm going to create the camera screen first of all, and I'm going to use the form screen template so that I get a title bar and so that I get my accept and cancel buttons. So the idea here is going to be that we're going to have a camera control on here that the user can use to take pictures. They're going to be able to see the pictures that they have taken, remove pictures that they don't like from the list of pictures they've taken, and then upload them by clicking on the tick, or cancel the whole thing by clicking on the cross. So we'll get rid of this form control, we don't need that. Yep, we've got the triangle of doom showing up because our tick icon is no longer able to submit edit form 8 because I've just deleted it. So we're going to be putting in our own code in there, as I have said, so I'll just take that out of there for the moment. Take that formula out. I'm now going to add the camera control. So here's the camera control. I'm doing this in the Web Studio because the camera control has a tendency of crashing the desktop studio, at least on my machine. So every time I try and work with the camera control desktop studio in my machine, it just crashes. So here we are on the web. Okay, a couple of quick things to note. One is that I am at 90 degrees. That's because this is a app targeted at phones. So on a phone you tend to hold the device in portrait mode. So this would be the correct orientation for that scenario. We're also using the selfie camera. You can change which camera by using the camera property. So by changing between the value of 1 and 0, you change between the front and rear camera. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put an icon on the screen which will allow me to flick between the front and rear camera, or rather allow the user to flick between the front and rear camera. So here's the icon. And we are going to create a variable which flicks between 1 and 0 whenever you click on that icon, and then we will set that variable to be the camera property. So here we go. So we're going to do update context, and we're going to create a variable which is called device camera, and we're then just going to use an if statement to say if device camera is 0, then make it 1, otherwise have it as 0. So it's just going to toggle between 1 and 0. Get all those brackets the right way round. Okay, so that seems to be correct. Now I'm going to take device camera and I'm going to use that as the camera property. So instead of the camera property being 0, the camera property is going to be whatever is in our device camera variable. So the variable isn't set yet. We're going to hit the preview button and then click on here, and now we can flick between our modes for front or rear camera. So now we have our camera control and we can decide if we want the front or rear camera. We need to be able to take a picture. So I am going to trigger pictures by somebody tapping on the camera control itself. So I'm going to go to the onSelect property, and this is where we need to have a little talk about what's going to be going on in the background. So the way this is going to work is the user is going to tap to take a photo, and the photo is going to be stored locally. So it's going to be stored on the device itself, and only when the user has reviewed the photos and removed the ones they don't like will they click on the little tick, and then we will be appending that information into our Azure SQL database. Now, to append that information into the database, we need to make sure that we are passing the two fields that users need to fill in. Remember, this is just an auto number field, the message image ID, so we can ignore that. The database will fill that in for us. So we need to be recording the message ID and the message image in our application, and then appending that onto the message image table here. In order to do that, we're going to store the information, as I say, locally first of all, and then have it push to the back-end database. So to store the image, to store the images locally, we are going to use the collect function. So the collect function allows us to store in a local table our information. So let's call this my images for want of a better name. That will do. So we're going to store things in a collection called my images, and what we want to store is both the message ID and the image itself. So message ID, we saw before that we've got that already recorded in our hidden data card on the other screen. So message ID is going to be the message ID on the previous screen, and then we want to get the image itself. Message image is going to be a photo from the camera. Oops, sorry, fat thumbs today. Message image, and the colon is, what did I say it was? Camera, and the photo from the camera. So this is a really critical part of the process, so I'm going to dwell on it just a moment longer. We need a local collection, which we create by using the collect command. We need to have the columns that we want to push into our backend database, which is message ID and message image, and these must have exactly the same names as the field names in the database. Message ID, message image, message ID, message image. Okay, so you've got to get that part of it configured correctly. Okay, so now let's see how that works. So let's hit the play button, and we are going to take one or two images. So There's one of me just sitting here, and here's one of me. Where's the camera? There we go. Here's one of me waving. There. So that should be 2 images that we have taken. So let's just check before we go any further in File and Collections. So here we are. We've got a My Images collection, and there indeed is me and me waving. So we've managed to take those 2 pictures. I think message ID is blank at the moment because we didn't actually come through from that previous screen, the one that has the message ID on it. But when we're running normally and that screen is properly populated, then we should get the message ID come in there. Okay, so that's cool, except as you saw there, people could go click, 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 click to take photos, and they've no idea whether a photo is being taken or not. They've got no kind of feedback. So I think the best way to deal with that is to add a gallery, and the gallery will populate with images as the user takes the photos. So let's pop in a gallery. Let's just size it to be something relatively sensible. There we go, and we want to tie it not to the custom gallery, we want to tie it to My Images. And there we go, so we've got our images showing. We probably don't need these fields here. There we are. Oops, we might want to reshape those a little bit. There we are, so we can see a few photos on the screen. So why have we got the triangle of doom there now? Okay, because it was tied to the values of the field that I deleted. Right, any more of these? Okay, that's better. So let's have another look. So now when we play and I click the camera, now we've got new images appearing. So the user does have now a little bit of feedback that an image has been recorded. Great. Now what we need to be able to do is to get rid of some of those images. So I am going to add an icon. So now we're going to add a trash can icon, if I can find it, so that we can get rid of any images that we don't like the look of. Okay, so it hasn't added it to the gallery itself, so let's make sure we've got the gallery selected and add a trash can. There we are, so now the trash can is in the gallery. So there we are. So each little image is going to have a trash can, and then if we click on the trash can, it's going to delete the image. So with the on select of the trash can, we are going to set the following formula. We are going to say remove So it's remove if, so we only want to get rid of the photo that the trash can is displaying over the top of. So we want to remove from my images where message image is equal to the name of that gallery. That's gallery 4 because I haven't named it anything more sensible. Gallery 4 dot selected dot message image. Okay, so the remove if function is saying remove a row from my images where this condition is true, and the condition is where the message image is whatever message image is currently selected in that gallery. So let's give that a little try and see how that's working. So I'm going to hit the go button again on there. Let's get rid of the one of me waving. That's good. Let's get rid of the first one, and we'll get rid of the last one. Okay, so the user's now going to be able to take multiple photos by clicking, and then any photo they don't like, they're going to be able to say, okay, I'm going to remove that photo. So we'll leave 2 photos for now. So that's great, we're really getting somewhere now. So now we can choose between the front and the rear camera, we can take our photos, we can see the photos that we have taken. We also want to be able to then upload the photos that we are happy with. So let's have a go at doing that then. So we're going to use the tick icon for that. And we are going to use the collect function again. So with collect, first of all, we specify where we want to put the information. So we want to put the information in our order message image. That's our SQL table which holds the information. And we can, because all of the field names match, just use the My Images collection. So that should work. Message ID number expected. Ah, right, okay, yeah, so this seems to be an interesting kind of bug. So it had me foxed for a little while the first time I did it. So we've said, okay, we want to send the data from the My Images local table into our order message image table on our SQL database. But what it doesn't like is when it's going to try and append the message image, the message ID field, because it's expecting a number, and in the My Images table, I believe PowerApps is treating it as a character. So what can we do about that? Okay, let's come back to where we take the photo. So this is where we take the photo and store it in the My Images. That's the message ID. To force PowerApps to treat that as a number, I'm just going to put an arithmetic operator on there. So I'm going to say, well, multiply it by 1. Okay, and then that's got to treat it as a number. So there we are. So it's wiped out my photos that I already had in there. So I think it's going to have wiped out the all the things in the collection, because effectively there what I've done is I have redefined that My Images collection, because I've changed the data type. So it's flushed out all of the data that was there. We'll have to take some new photos, but hopefully now when we take the pictures, that message ID is going to come in correctly. The other thing I just want to make sure we do is make sure that we've got a message ID showing on here. Yeah, so we've got something populated in there. Good. Let's give that another try. So let's run it, take a picture or two, and then click on the tick to submit those items to the database. You can see there that the little update dots are flashing backwards and forwards. I guess that's going to take it a couple of seconds. because we're loading up 2 images and they're going up to Azure SQL DB. So let's just go to our Azure SQL DB and see if we can check what is in that table. So a moment ago I ran a delete on this table so that there was nothing in it. So now if I decide to show what's in this table, there we go, success. So we've uploaded 2 images, so that's the binary image data, and they were associated with the message ID 4. Okay. So to tidy things up a little bit, what we probably would want to do is to say, okay, when we hit the cross button, we just want to clear our My Images collection, get rid of all those local stored photos, and do a go back command. And similarly on our tick, once we've saved our photos, we're going to want to go back the screen. In fact, now that we've saved the photos, we may as well clear My Images on here as well. So we save the images, we clear out the local table because the images have been saved, and then we just go back to whatever screen we were on before we came onto the screen with the camera. Great, so we're nearly done now. We just need to make sure that on our message view screen we've got a button which will allow us to go into our camera screen. So there's our camera button. I'll pop it there for now. So this can navigate us to, it's just called screen 1 because I've not been wasting time renaming the screens. We'll do the fade again. Oops. Yeah. And again, just in case we've got some photos left over, I'm going to do the clear My Images. So we've got a nice empty screen to start with. So let's try running that then. So in our scenario, I've created a message and saved it. I've then decided I'm going to add some photos to it. So I come into the view screen for that message. I hit the button to take me to the camera control. I decide when to use the rear camera or the front camera. I take a photo or 2 or 3. I decide which one looks best or which ones look best. I'd like these 2 photos, and I click the tick, and that's going to save my images back to my database. It's then going to clear out the local images table and take me back to the message detail. So let's just prove that that has actually worked. So we've got 2 messages that we made earlier, or 2 images that we did earlier. So if I run my select again, we should have 4 images there now because we just added another 2, and sure enough, those are my next 2 images. Okay. So the final thing that we'll want to do then is to actually display these images in a gallery on our message detail screen. So for the selected message detail, we'll see the images down the bottom. So let's do that quickly now. I'm going to go to gallery. I'm going to use the blank horizontal as everything seems to be in portrait orientation. Let's just drag that towards the bottom of the screen. So I'm going to choose the data source as my SQL message image table. I'm then going to add an item from the insert menu, so let's do that as an image. There we are. PowerApps has been smart enough to recognize that I've only got one field in there, which is a image type, and it's added that automatically, or add it automatically for me. Let's make those a little bit bigger. So that's looking nice. So that is everything. So you can see there that we have created an application where we can take photos, review the photos, save those photos back to our Azure DB SQL server, and then we can display the photos on another screen. If you wanted to take it further, then obviously you could set it up so that if you then click on one of these photos or tap on one of these photos, you can go to a screen where it's going to display full size to make it easier to view. But this tutorial, I think, covers the main groundwork of, okay, how can we control the camera, how can we review the images that we've taken, and then how can we load those images back to our SQL Server instance. The only other thing that I will say is when you're putting in this gallery to show the images that you've taken in SQL Server, sometimes the images don't show up straight away, so sometimes you have to go into the gallery and into the data for the gallery and hit refresh a few times, or on some occasions I've even had to go and add a new photo to then get everything to kind of start working properly. Seems to be fine once you've actually downloaded it to a mobile device to use, but you do sometimes get some issues in the editor in terms of displaying these images that you have taken. Sometimes you have to refresh the data a few times for that to sort of kick in and work properly. Well, I hope that's been helpful. Please leave comments either way. If it was, it's great to hear. If it wasn't, it's be good to hear what you think I should what I should do differently. So good luck with your PowerApps. Keep persevering through the through the issues. It's cool when your application is actually working, but it can be quite infuriating trying to piece the whole thing together. So yeah, if you find something new, if you figure out a bug, then please make sure you share it with the community so that we can all benefit from that. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.